Breaking news, I've just gotten sued by the CIA official that we reported on and exposed 2 years ago, who was in the restaurant openly saying that the CIA withheld information from President Trump.
We kept information from him.
From Trump?
Yes. He said he did it.
President Trump reacted.
CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. This is not an intelligent guy.
Count 1, fraudulent misrepresentation. Count 2, conspiracy to commit fraudulent misrepresentation. Count 3, which is U.S.C. 2511, that's wiretapping. As a direct of these reports, Mr. FISA has suffered severe emotional distress, humiliation and depression, fear and terror. That is because of what Mr. FISA did. Just got this lawsuit from the Eastern District of Virginia, that's federal court. We're going to take you through it. In case you don't remember, this is a guy who worked for the Chinese Mission Center part of Langley, Virginia, CIA. He had the green badge, showed our undercover reporter his green badge, and he said that we, that's at the CIA, kept information from Donald Trump.
We kept information from him.
From Trump?
Yes. He said he did it. And there are certain people that would give him a high level overview but never give it to any details. You know why? Because he'll leak those details.
After we did the report, President Trump reacted.
What's shocking to see how stupid somebody can be. If this guy's for real, you ought to get rid of him. CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. This is not an intelligent guy.
Now, we actually got a statement from the CIA who fired Amjad FISA, called me on the phone and said he's now a former contractor. He actually was a program manager with Deloitte.
The individual making these allegations is a former contractor who does not represent CIA.
Amjad FISA also claimed that the CIA was spying on his ex-wife. We interpreted that to be Marla Maples. I asked Marla Maples about that in my sit-down interview on The Price is My Life. Now, they're suing us for 3 things. Count 1, fraudulent misrepresentation. Count 2 is conspiracy to commit fraudulent misrepresentation. And count 3, which is U.S.C. 2511, that's wiretapping. They're claiming that our undercover reporter misrepresented herself on a dating profile and was, quote, inauthentic. Now, if this is fraudulent misrepresentation, basically every lie in social life could be a federal crime. Now, if it were a federal crime or a federal tort for a girl to be inauthentic on a date, then we would effectively have to criminalize all social lies. But don't take my word for it. Let me quote federal judge Richard Posner. If the use of undisclosed or false identities were per se wrongful as a form of fraud, then we'd have to be willing to allow restaurants to sue restaurant critics, landlords to sue fair housing testers, and stores to sue secret shoppers who, as it turns out, have actually no real intention to buy. Or as another law professor wrote, if the use of undisclosed or false identities were per se wrongful, a private investigator could not lawfully obtain evidence of adultery by posing as a potential lover, or a black person could not lawfully expose racial discrimination by posing as a potential renter or employee. This is completely preposterous. Now let's go to this wiretapping stuff. That's U.S.C. 2511. Wiretapping. Now, Virginia is a one-party consent state to record. That means I can record the guy, or Amjad FISA could be recorded by the undercover reporter as long as one of them knows that the recording is taking place. As a direct of these reports, Mr. FISA has suffered severe emotional distress, humiliation and depression, necessitating psychiatric and psychological medical treatment, fear and terror, resulting from death threats directed towards him as a result of O'Keefe's defamatory statements, and damage to his reputation, 8 months of unemployment, numerous rescinded job offers, and the loss of professional relationships. So what this lawsuit does, if you go to Section 71, it says, notwithstanding Virginia being a one-party state, 18 U.S.C. 2511 nonetheless prohibits the interception and recording of a communication if it was for a, quote, tortious act. So they're saying that my intent was to commit a tortious act. Our intent is not to commit a tortious act. Our intent is to gather information about the CIA and publish it, which is what journalists do. We just do it so well that there's no way out for him. He can't say that we lied because his face is on video. You could see his lips moving. Quite unlike New York Times, Washington Post, NBC, ABC, who quote people on background, who quote people off the record. We have no idea what actually was stated. But in this case, you know exactly because you can see his face. That's why he's suing us. But our intent is no different than any of those organizations or publications. It's just that we publish the information without his consent, which is what an investigative reporter ought to do. It stands to reason that any investigative reporter who publishes information without the consent of the person would therefore, according to this lawyer, be doing the journalism for purposes of committing a tortious act. That's a paradox. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. Now, what would be tortious if we, for example, if we were posing as corporate spies? We were a for-profit company that was a competitor to what this man was doing at Accenture or at Deloitte. He was actually a program manager at Deloitte working with the CIA. If I was a competitor to Deloitte, now that might be a tortious act. But we are journalists covered by the First Amendment. This is not the only lawsuit that we're facing. We're facing a number of lawsuits which basically are all claiming the same thing. These lawsuits must fail. The only way they won't is if they try to milk me for legal fees and make me settle. Let me be clear. I am not settling this lawsuit. This lawyer, Jason F. Zellman is his name, from Fairfax, Virginia. If you're on contingency, good luck, buddy. This is going to be the most expensive use of your time you've ever managed. I don't settle lawsuits. I'll go all the way to the Supreme Court, and I will win because there's something called the First Amendment. And I know that's a cliche, but it actually still applies in the Article III courts. In fact, we have a hearing January 15th in Washington, D.C. in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals in the Democracy Partners case, which is covering the same thing. And we must win. We will win, even if it takes us years. And I think that there is an assumption that we want to hurt people. We have no desire to hurt people. Our desire is news gathering and bringing information to the public that the public needs to know. This is from American Muckraker. In gathering truthful information in the course of his duties, the journalist will affect people in a negative way. But the purpose, the public's right to know, is what is important. As Washington Post editor Leonard Downey writes in the New Muckrakers, the investigative reporter must face the fact that his stories will, as a byproduct, harm people. But what's never be forgotten, however, is that in a democracy, or in a democratic republic, which we are, protecting the public's right to know is necessary if citizens are to make informed decisions. So if Nick Shirley reports on Minnesota fraud and it hurts members of the Somali community because fraud is happening, that doesn't mean he shouldn't have a right to report on the fraud. If malfeasance is happening here in Washington, D.C., with a CIA official behaving badly, possibly even doing something that's against the rules of the CIA, and we report on that, that is because of what Mr. FISA did. I am just exercising my First Amendment right and my First Amendment duty to report it to all of you. Stay tuned. We will never settle, not settling. Our organization is called Citizen Journalism Foundation, which defends the rights of our undercover reporters to do this. We are being sued all over the place in federal court, state court, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. This will all go to the United States Supreme Court, and a decision will have to be made on whether journalism is allowed in this country. Do you want unsanctioned information, or do you want sanctioned information? That will be the decision before Your Honor. And I know, of course, the decision will be, we have a right to do this, as long as we don't give up. Let's face it, healthcare is a mess. Outrageous premiums, surprise bills, denied claims, and now the rates are climbing again. Medical debt is the #1 cause of bankruptcy, even for people with insurance. That's why I switched to Impact Health Sharing. No networks, no woke nonsense, just real savings and up to 50%. You can pick your doctor, there's no surprise bills, there's 24/7 telehealth and maternity support. Take control of your healthcare before the system decides for you. Go to impactomg.com, that's impactomg.com, or call 855-378-6777 now. Impact Health Sharing, built differently.